we're going to cover three topics. The first one is collab types, like how our relationships actually structured between brand and creator. The second one is creator selection. So how do you choose influencers that your company should work with, basically? And finally is comp and payment. So how do we incentivize creators to perform really well? And how do we get them paid fairly and in a way that's also lucrative for the company? So today we have the great and powerful Fiona, the magnificent, wonderful Ben, of numerous claims to fame for each of you, working together on the Farfetch team and then going separate ways. Ben currently unemployed, but presumably gainfully employed in the near future.
I'm Fiona, currently the influencer marketing lead at Wild, so overlooking the big team of influencer marketers. We're currently present in several different markets, so in Europe, currently venturing out to the US, Australia. And before that, I was in the influencer team at Farfetch, so where Ben and I work together. I specifically looked after the DACH region there. And then before that, I was also at Charlotte Tilbury, kind of in the PR and advocacy team. So it involved influencer marketing, but on a very much different scale. So at Charlotte Tilbury, it kind of was more focused on brand awareness rather than performance marketing. So that's kind of like my couple of last stops in my career that kind of shaped me to where I am right now.
Ben, you wanna say, give yourself a more generous flex a little for us.
Try and top that, which is quite hard to be honest. But no, as you mentioned, most recently worked at Farfetch within the influencer team. So kind of transitioned towards the end of my role there as overseeing the whole UK market, which was a really exciting opportunity, having quite a lot of autonomy over budget and how that was spent. Started my tenure at Farfetch kind of just activating with as many influencers as possible. So got a really strong understanding of, your BAU day-to-day campaigns, activating with talent creators and pushing out a hell of a lot of content into the Instagram, YouTube world. So that's kind of how I started. But then, as I mentioned, my role transitioned. I moved into more of a performance-focused lens as well. So ran the affiliate programs for the Farfetch influencers, working with major publishers there, the likes of RewardStyle, etc., and kind of led the initiative on working on a CPA basis, which is obviously the dream for every influencer marketer. Prior to that, I was at the Hut Group. I sat within a central team working on partnerships, mainly affiliate partnerships. And so have a kind of a strong upbringing in that more data-heavy performance marketing function, and then a lot of partnerships with banks, as well as your more traditional affiliate kind of publishers. So yeah, started very digital marketing, kind of moved into influencers, but took that that lens.
I'm so unqualified to be here, guys. I don't know what I'm doing. Does it ever, or when does it ever, make sense to do sponsored posts, so pay per post format, kind of traditional influencer marketing, some people call this, as opposed to performance-based or affiliate incentivized creator partnerships?
It's an interesting dynamic. I kind of touched on it earlier, but your ideal world would be you just pay every creator on a CPA, on a rev share model, and that kind of performance / affiliate kind of lens that you touched on. But in reality, it's very hard to get creators who earn a living often from sponsored posts and paid kind of ads to agree to just a rev share model, even if they could potentially earn more from the rev share kind of approach as well. So I think, to answer your question bluntly, does it make sense? Yes, it does, because often creators won't agree to a pure CPA model, particularly if your brand is small. If maybe if creators haven't heard of your brand, they might need to be convinced to start posting and go with that kind of sponsored lens. I guess what I would say is that the CPA kind of performance side of it does come eventually, but it takes time. And I think if day one you want to start on that approach, then it's very unrealistic that you're going to have creators jump at that. However, as soon as you start creating a big network of influencers who are, you might have them on retainer working together monthly, they can often start posting like those affiliate links or CPA links organically outside of like, or in between kind of campaign times. And it does start to come. So I think, to answer the question, it does make sense. Like you would struggle to just get going without it. But obviously the CPA side is every influencer marketer's kind of dream. But it does come eventually. You just have to start with the...
You kind of imply that something changes from the day you start to the day you can do affiliate incentives. And I'm curious what that thing is. Is it trust in the brand or?
I'd say trust in the brand, but maybe also that level of paycheck as well. I think once you start working with someone initially and you can maybe incentivize them to say, look, we can give you another full sponsored campaign if you do organically choose to post those affiliate links via reward style or shop style or another big affiliate network or even your in-house one. So I think that you can incentivize it and like almost dangle the carrot in front of the creator and say, if you do this, then, it might open the door for more opportunity in the future.
Agree.
Gotcha.
I think a big problem as well is why influencers or content creators are probably not too keen on like jump on an affiliate basis is the whole education piece. I think what I see is, or like what I actually think is that influencer marketing is more and more moving into the direction of the affiliate kind of traditional world of affiliate marketing. I don't think that was very much the case probably 1 or 2 years ago. But I think the reason why probably content creators are not really, they're not up for it is because they just don't know what it actually is. And also, let's say if companies actually work with external affiliate platforms such as, I don't know, just to name drop a couple, Impact or Partnerize, Awin, the actual onboarding process is still very lengthy and probably not really catered for content creators. So I think also probably affiliate platforms, if you don't really have your own one in-house, they need to just adapt a little bit as well, because I guess as an influencer, you want to quickly sign up your bank account and that's it. But I guess in real world, again, like the process is heavy and lengthy and I guess like not really appealing to influencers. So I guess it's a bit of again, I think what Ben said, ideal world on a CPA basis, but again, reality is super tough. I think you need to gain their trust, create a relationship with them, maybe have done a couple of paid campaigns beforehand before they actually agree on it, because they do trust you that you actually pay them. So I guess quite a lot of factors play into that on why it's a little bit tougher than it is. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. I've had so today I had a conversation actually with a lady at a company called Omeo, and they've actually had tons of success recruiting affiliates. But I think the caveat for them, right out of the gate, they're an early stage startup as well, or mid stage startup, so they're not super well known like some of the companies you folks have come from. But maybe it has something to do with the threshold. So most of their affiliates are at like 20,000 followers-ish, or like they're not these mega famous stars. And what they've really emphasized and done really well, I think, is what you mentioned, Fiona, that they've reduced all of the friction for the creators to become an affiliate and then to publish. And most of their affiliates start as customers. So they're customers first and then they become affiliates. They've streamlined this whole application process and pay them out. Yeah, I pose you this example and get your opinion about, are you totally wrong or am I?
No, I think that's a great example, but I think what you've highlighted is maybe a niche industry and a niche product where you have a very niche creator or group of creators and then a niche audience on top of it. So I think if you look at Fee and I's background working in beauty and fashion, there's millions of fashion brands doing influencer marketing and millions of influencers who are all there ready. So it's a harder sell because they might be able to go away and just get a brand deal with one of your competitors where they're getting full paid usage rights and sponsored content, that kind of thing. So if you have a niche brand and a niche product and you identify it almost as a community kind of brand building exercise as well, it's a really strong way to kind of reward your consumers who also happen to be creators by the sounds of things. So I think that's a genius approach, but I guess would caveat it that it couldn't necessarily work for everybody, particularly if you're trying to do it at a huge scale. Like I imagine if you were a fashion brand and you wanted to work with 10 people on a CPA basis, you could do that. But if you want to be getting thousands and thousands, like some of the campaigns that we've run, it's quite hard. It would be a hard sell from the get-go to work at that kind of scale.
And I think also like my question would be, I quite like the idea. I think more and more brands are actually opening up the affiliate program to like, I guess, your normal customers. But again, as like a company, where do you like stop? Because obviously you need customers to buy your extra product, and you don't want everyone to be an affiliate, because otherwise I guess you're not selling your product. So I guess hopefully the company, or like you will have some kind of guidelines onto like where to stop and like what they actually need to fulfill in order to be able to be part of it. But I do like the approach, but I guess there has to be some T's and C's to like, yeah.
Yeah, in this case, the way they structure it is that you have to be converting a certain number of customers, and you also get pre-qualified. So you have to have been a customer, I think, or at least used the product for at least 2 weeks, for example, before you qualify at all to be a part of it. And on top of that, then your content and your message and this kind of stuff is also really important. So so they have some structure there that makes it possible for them. Kind of segueing towards that earlier stage company, how can early stage e-commerce companies decide which kind of collabs to prioritize in the early days? So I'm just getting started. I've got like relatively small budget, and I'm supposed to turn it into this magical thing. How do I kind of get started as far as relationship structure goes?
The first thing I would have said is like, what is actually your budget? I think it's like so much dependent on what is your budget. But I would also say like how, I guess like you'd probably have founders and in a startup or like in a kind of scale up, but you probably need to ask yourself, is the co-founder or is whoever is heading up marketing actually interested in influencer marketing? Do you need the buy-in? Because if you have someone above you who's actually really strongly opinionated towards influencer marketing, I think that's great. Then you have him on board. You will most likely get more budget. Or is there actually some more homework to do where you actually have to prove yourself and say, hey, influencer marketing is a great way to acquire new customers, but also at the same time get brand awareness out there. So I think you probably have to do a bit of a checklist, like what's your budget? What does you actually, do you have the support within your company? And then what you've said is if the budget is relatively small, and again, that depends on like what your product actually is. If it is, what's actually the value of your product. If the value is like fairly low, then you can start with a bit of a gifting approach, like actually gift influencers, like they're a bit of a must reach out, get the products into as many hands as possible. I guess at the same time you could ask, hey, if you share a promo code or whatever, and we see some results, we can onboard you maybe on an affiliate basis, CPA basis, or we could work with you on a paid basis. So I think if the budget is limited, maybe work your way up from the bottom.
Yeah, like I totally agree. I think I love the approach around gaining budget initially, but I guess my starting point would be like, what's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? I think everything we've said up till now has been very much from a performance basis. Like, how do you drive sales? How do you acquire new customers? But if you're a startup, scale up, you can use it as an incredible tool to get as much content for your personal channels, for your e-commerce site, for your Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, everything. Like, you can leverage influencers in an amazing way to become really efficient, and it can help all your other marketing channels. So if that's the case, like if you're trying to start up and you're trying to be as efficient as possible, then definitely include some usage rights in some of your conversations with influencers and get that amazing content, which so many creators with like 2, 3, 4,000 followers, so really small creators, can make amazing content, which you can then repurpose. If your goal is to try and be efficient, grow your brand, and like benefit your other marketing channels, kind of outside of just driving revenue or sign-ups or new customers, then you can go down that approach. So
I've given the advice, I'll be honest, I've given the advice quite a lot that to early stage companies, because they do knock on the door once in a while and ask what they should be doing. And often, usually they have kind of a geographical focus. They have let's say they sell fancy iPhone cases, handcrafted metal cases or something. But they want to nail their home market first in Norway, and they're just trying to get their first 1,000, 1,500 customers kind of thing. In those cases, I have kind of told them a bit the opposite of what you've described here. so I'm like kind of wondering if they're watching this going, what the hell, Avery? But the advice that I've given them in some cases is find a few people who do target that audience really well, Norwegian iPhone lovers, and put them on commission, give them free product, invest a lot in relationship, which compensates for the trust piece maybe that we covered briefly in the beginning. Build the trust with the person, maybe focus on your own customer base, whatever that looks like. And then do your best to get the first 5-10 creators on that performance-based budget, and maybe occasionally you have to grease the wheels with a little bit of cash. Like, okay, you usually only do fixed fee. Try out this affiliate thing. We'll give you $500 as well for this post to get you on this performance thing for the rest of the month. What do you think? And then if you don't like it, we get away. And so, yeah, what do you think? Is my advice terrible in these cases of rather small companies kind of aiming for their first 1,000 to 10,000 customers, let's say?
How big are those 5 to 10 influencers that you have suggested to that company?
So maybe it's like the most popular creators in Oslo are like 75,000, 100,000 followers, something like this. Yeah, let's aim there. 50, 100,000 followers maybe.
I think the basis of your advice is quite good, but again, in reality, I'm not sure if like an influencer of 100,000 followers would, of like a company that is not really well known, no one really has promoted that company yet or the product yet, that they would jump on like a CPA basis. So I guess if you have a little bit of budget and you want to risk it, you can definitely go with like 5 bigger influencers, but you really need to be confident in that this is the right type and that this person is fulfilling your goals, like whether it be brand awareness or if it is performance based. So I think in my opinion, if you go a little bit with the lower, like with the smaller influencers, you're much more risk adverse than with the bigger influencers. And I guess if you start with the smaller ones, you can build your way up and then actually spend a little bit more money once you have really perfected your strategy and what actually works on different social media channels. I like the idea, but again, in reality, I'm not sure how that would actually work, given that influencers just have quite high expectations these days in terms of what they want in terms of compensation. Yeah.
I like, if you can get them to agree to it, then it's a great idea and makes total sense. I'm going to play devil's advocate now, but I think if you're a company trying to reach your first 1,000 customers or your first 1,000 sign-ups or whatever, probably going down like your traditional Google ads or PPC is your most efficient way to do that if you're really strapped for cash. The way that I like to look at influencers is the added value you get from outside of just acquiring that customer. So the reach and impressions can be much higher, yet your CPMs can be really low. And then if you're just starting up, getting that content, and I always just think that content is so key and content is king, like that's going to grow your brand and make you ultimately successful in the future. So using influencers to get access to all of that is so beneficial outside of just trying to reach that first 1,000 customers. Because like, let's be honest, if you just want to reach 1,000 customers, then just nail your Google ads and your Facebook ads and your PPC strategy. So I think that's like, would be my opinion. And then to try and use influencers kind of in tandem with all of that to try and grow the whole pie. So yeah, I think it's not bad advice at all. Like if you can get influencers to agree with like 100,000 followers to a 10% commission on your products, then yeah, like by all means, that's great.
Thanks for disagreeing as well. I think that's what makes this fun. Last on collab types in general, is there any big mistakes you see people commonly making when they start structuring their influencer marketing function and how those relationships look? Is there common misconceptions, traps people fall into?
Yeah, I guess like maybe not traps, but kind of bugbears from my side is certain brands that I know of just not abiding by any kind of regulation or rules when working with creators. And for me, it's like an unfair advantage. You know, you could seed loads of top people and they could promote your product to all of their followers and it could come across as really organic. But if you're, you know, just giving them money on the sly and giving them, you know, access to loads of events and products and all of that kind of thing, and it's coming across as they're just advertising your product from the goodness of their heart, I think that's incredibly misleading. So my advice, would be try and be as above board as possible on that kind of thing. I know from my last job, spoke to a few regulatory bodies that were keen to crack down on that kind of thing, particularly in the US and more so in Europe now. So I think that it's going to become more salient over the next couple of years. So yeah, my main advice would be just be really transparent and make sure you have that, hashtag ad in your stories and your posts, because it's cheating in my eyes if you don't.
I guess the advice from my side is just very simple. It's probably, if you just start, I wouldn't go and you're just trialing out a new influencer, and let's say you are going for a paid campaign. I guess talent agents or also influencers, they're always striving for a long-term partnership, because I guess it's just in their interest. And I guess my advice is just don't do long-term partnerships. I think it's fair to say that each party has a right to try that out, at least for one campaign, or let's say for 1 month, to see, hey, is that actually resonating for my followers, but also is it resonating for the company? Again, whether it's performance-based or brand awareness-based. And then I guess based on that first campaign, even I would say second or third campaign, give it a little bit of a trial and then see how it works for you, and then actually decide if you want to go long-term or not. So I would not go long-term straight away. I think that's really, really risky.
I've seen that a bit too. Because we typically give the advice that what you're aiming for is a lot of your partnerships to last for a long period of time. It's easier to stack them on top of each other and kind of get that compounding gains. And you learn a lot better when you have the same creators publishing about you consistently. You can look across the data set and say, oh, creators like this perform better. Oh, this person's outperforming this month. Let's investigate that. And you can learn through that and replicate success. But if I understand your point, it's that you should definitely experiment, have an experimental cycle with every new partner, and then decide, okay, let's go all in here.
I have one more. It's I guess it kind of got a little bit forgotten during the pandemic, but actually, even though it's influencer marketing is going more down an affiliate route, or even very much performance route, I still think it comes from a very much relationship building heavy background. So I think probably these days what influencer marketers or companies forget is that you need to create a connection. Let's say if you live in London and all the influencers actually live in London, why do you not just meet them for coffee? Or same with the talent agents. I think an emotional connection or relationship with agents and influencers is key. And it's definitely something that is a little bit forgotten about. I think mainly because of the pandemic, because we couldn't do it, and then we're catching up over Zoom or Google Meets. But I think actually meeting or having little lunches, I think that's really important and isn't done enough actually.